At my sister's wedding, she introduced me to her boss as a jobless failure. My parents piled on, "She's the embarrassment of this family." Her boss studied me for a second, gave a small smile, then looked at her and said, "You're done working for me." My sister turned to stone. "Hey Reddit, aren't weddings supposed to unite families?" Mine just ripped the mask off everything ugly underneath. It was my sister Emily's grand day. She floated around the hall like a spotlight was glued to her, showing off the gown, the diamond, the guests, the whole fairy tale package. I stayed near the dessert table, nursing a glass of water, doing what I always do at family events, trying to become invisible. But Emily has never let me disappear. She spotted me and made a beeline, pulling a tall man in a sharp suit behind her. The smirk on her face was the only warning I needed. "Jessica," she announced loud enough for half the room to hear. "Come say hi to my boss," the CEO she name-dropped at every holiday dinner. The man she had spent years trying to dazzle. I offered a polite smile. "Hi, nice to," Emily cut me off with syrupy sweetness that turned razor-sharp. "This is my sister, the unemployed failure of the family." The chatter around us died. My stomach dropped straight through the floor. Before I could breathe, Mom laughed like it was open mic night. "Oh, absolutely, she's our little tragedy. Can't seem to get anything right." Dad shrugged, sipping his drink. "Been sponging off people for years." Heat flooded my face. My throat closed. I wanted the ground to swallow me whole. Emily's boss didn't laugh. He didn't cringe. He just looked at me, really looked, and asked in the calmest voice I'd ever heard, "Jessica, what do you actually do for a living?" Something in me snapped upright. For once, I wasn't going to fold. "I'm a senior software architect," I said, clear enough for the nearby tables to hear. "I build AI-driven infrastructure for enterprise cybersecurity." You could have heard an ice cube melt. Emily blinked rapidly like I'd started speaking Martian. Mom's smile froze. Dad's glass stopped halfway to his mouth. Her boss lifted an eyebrow. "Cybersecurity? Which firm?" I said the name. One of the biggest tech companies on the planet, easily 10 times the size of Emily's employer. His eyes widened with genuine recognition. Whispers rippled outward like someone had tossed a stone in still water. Emily forced an awkward laugh. "She's exaggerating, she always does," he shook his head. "No, I know that company extremely well." Emily's face went the color of printer paper. He turned back to me softer. "I'm guessing you keep it quiet on purpose." "My role demands discretion," I answered. "I don't usually talk about it." Emily's smile was gone. Mom looked like she'd bitten into something sour. Dad swallowed hard enough to be heard across the room. Then her boss asked the question that flipped the entire evening upside down. "Emily, why on earth did you introduce your own sister that way?" she stammered. It was just a joke. You know, family teasing." "No," he said, perfectly level. "I don't know." He glanced at me. "Jessica, would you mind giving us a moment?" I stepped back, but not far, every word carried. "Emily," he said quietly, "why would you deliberately humiliate your sister in front of me?" She gave a nervous giggle. "She's dramatic, always has been. She's really not that special. You didn't even let her finish a sentence." "Well, sometimes she stretches the truth." She didn't stretch anything. "I know her employer. They hire maybe 1% of applicants." Silence from Emily, he kept going. "You degraded her at your own wedding with your parents cheering you on. That speaks volumes." She grabbed his sleeve. "Please, I was only trying to be funny." "Funny," he repeated. "That was cruel, pointless, and astonishingly unprofessional." Her voice cracked. "I didn't mean," he looked her straight in the eye. "I saw a side of you tonight I can't unsee." Her breath hitched. "What are you saying?" "You showed envy, pettiness, and zero emotional maturity. If this is how you treat blood, I shudder to think how you treat the people who report to you." She started shaking her head frantically. "That's not fair." "Emily," he said, voice like steel wrapped in silk, "you're fired." The room went arctic. Emily's bouquet slipped from her hand and hit the floor with a soft thud. I felt my own knees buckle. Did he really just say that? "You'll get the formal letter tonight," he continued. "Conduct like this is unacceptable inside or outside the office." "No," she whispered. "You can't, not today, not at my wedding." "I can. And I have." Then he turned, walked straight to me, and still in front of everyone, offered the warmest smile I'd seen all night. "Jessica, I owe you an apology." I blinked. "For what?" "For having to witness that. No one should be spoken to the way they just spoke to you." Behind him, Emily was already sobbing into her new husband's shoulder while my parents fluttered around her like panicked birds. He leaned in so only I could hear. "Can we speak privately for a minute?" I nodded. He led me to a quiet side corridor. Once we were alone, he exhaled. "There's something your sister told the entire leadership team about you, and you deserve to know exactly what it was." My pulse hammered in my ears. What did she say? He looked almost embarrassed to repeat it. That you're unstable, that you've battled addiction, that you bounce from job to job because you can't hold it together and your parents constantly bail you out. That your jealousy is dangerous, that you once sent anonymous complaints to our HR trying to get her disciplined. Every word landed like a slap. I've never touched drugs, I said quietly. I've been at the same company for 8 years. My parents haven't given me a dime since I was 17, and I didn't even know where she worked until tonight. He nodded, anger flashing behind his eyes, anger for me. I believed something was off the second she paraded you over like a punchline. Normal people don't do that. Then he dropped the final bomb. The only reason I agreed to come today was because she warned me you were planning to cause a huge scene. She wanted me to watch you fall apart so she could play the successful sister. I felt the air leave my lungs. She staged the whole thing. Exactly. Instead, she's the one who imploded. Shouting echoed from the hall, Mom's shrill voice leading the charge. This is your fault, Jessica. We stepped back into view. My parents stormed toward me like I'd burned the venue down. Dad jabbed a finger at me. You destroyed her wedding, Mom screeched. You got your own sister fired. Emily had collapsed into a chair, makeup streaking, looking like a melted wedding cake. Her brand new husband stood behind her looking shell-shocked. Mom whirled to the boss. We'll call HR first thing Monday. This is fixable. The boss cut her off, ice cold. It's not fixable. Your daughter was terminated for her own actions tonight. Dad scoffed. That's absurd. What's absurd, the boss said, is that you stood there encouraging your daughter to publicly bully her sister at a wedding in front of colleagues. You're all complicit, Emily wailed louder. I was joking. You lied about her to the entire company for years, he replied. You invented stories for sympathy. You weaponized her name for attention. That's not a joke. Mom rounded on me again. You happy now? You've ruined everything. Something inside me finally clicked into place. No, Mom, I said, voice steady for the first time in years. You ruined this a long time ago. You taught her that tearing me down was how she earns love. You taught her I'm the family punching bag. You created this. Dad rolled his eyes. Always the victim, Jessica. I'm not playing victim, I said. I was the victim for decades. I looked at Emily. You lied about me. You smeared me. You used me as your scapegoat every chance you got. She couldn't even meet my eyes. The boss folded his arms beside me. For what it's worth, I'm sorry you grew up in this. Emily suddenly shot to her feet and screamed. This night was supposed to be about me. She thinks she's better than everyone. Guests turned. Phones came out. Her new mother-in-law looked faint. Emily hurled her bouquet at my feet. Petals exploded across the marble. Her husband muttered, I need a drink, and walked away. Dad barked, get out. You're not welcome here anymore. I gave a small nod. First thing you've said tonight that I agree with. The boss walked me to the exit. At the door, he stopped. Jessica, we're hiring senior architects. If you ever feel like a change of scenery, you've got a job, no interview needed. I stared at him. You're serious, he smiled. You showed more class in 10 minutes than your sister has in 10 years. I left with my head high and my heart finally light. That night, I blocked every single one of them. The meltdown went viral on local wedding-shaming pages. Her in-laws insisted on intensive therapy before they'd pay for the honeymoon. She lost the job, the reputation, the fairy tale image, none of it pinned on me for once. 3 months later, I accepted the offer, moved cities, and started fresh. One morning, a letter arrived in my new mailbox. Inside, a single line in Emily's handwriting, please come back. I dropped it in the trash without a second thought. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is keep walking.